Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into the pretty wild story of Darren Watkins Jr., probably better known to most people as IShowSpeed.
Yeah, it's quite a journey. We've got some interesting material to go through. A video from the Kayama channel, how IShowSpeed went from $0 to Millionaire, that CLUB Shay Shay interview.
Oh yeah, the one where he talks about becoming a millionaire at 16.
That's the one. And also Patrick Cece's video, The Controversial Rise of IShowSpeed, which adds another layer.
So our goal here is really to unpack how he went from, struggling financially, dealing with family stuff, like his mom not approving at first.
Right, to becoming this huge name in streaming. We want to look at the key moments, the strategies he used, the money side of things, obviously, and just give you a clear picture of how it all happened so fast.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. He was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, January 21st, 2005.
Still really young when you think about it.
Totally. And his parents divorced early on, so he's splitting time between his mom and dad, had two siblings. And before YouTube really hit, he was actually pretty serious about football.
Yeah, he mentions that, said he really enjoyed it, and it was maybe like a backup plan or even the main plan if YouTube didn't work out.
It's such a different world, isn't it? Football versus, streaming.
Completely. Makes you wonder what drove that shift.
Well, the YouTube channel itself started way back in March 2016, but he didn't actually upload anything until December 2017.
What was the first video?
Just a little clip from NBA 2K8, like a shoot-around thing.
Okay, so gaming was there early.
Yeah, and then in 2018, he tried streaming Fortnite, but it sounds like it was tough going.
Oh, I bet. Fortnite was massive then. Everyone was streaming it.
Exactly. He just couldn't get viewers. Tried Twitch too, apparently. Same result. No traction.
So what happened then?
He actually stepped back from YouTube for a bit, focused on school, played football. This was around like 8th grade.
Makes sense. It shows breaking through isn't easy. It's not just about turning on a camera.
Right. You need that hook, that timing.
And he hadn't quite found it yet.
But then, 2020, the pandemic hits.
The big turning point for so many creators.
Totally. A friend convinced him, hey, give YouTube another shot, this time focusing on NBA 2K streams.
And this time, it worked.
It really did. This is where things start to pick up speed, no pun intended. By June 2020, he's getting like 150 new subs a week.
Okay, that's solid growth starting out.
Then fast forward 6 months, and it's 1,000 new subs every week.
Wow. Okay, so what changed? What was the key?
Consistency seems huge. He was streaming daily. And then there's the persona, right?
Yeah.
Energy.
Yeah, the sources really emphasize that. High energy, lots of, let's call it gamer talk.
Yeah, the shit talking, as they put it. Plus charisma.
And the unpredictable stuff, the barking, the freakouts.
Right. The audience apparently loved those rage moments. They'd even donate money to try and trigger them.
That's an interesting dynamic. Sort of gamifying the streamer's reactions.
And his manager, who was the friend who got him back into it, saw this and leaned into it. Like, let's use this energy.
That's smart from a growth perspective, I guess. Capitalizing on what's getting attention.
Yeah.
Even if it skirts the line sometimes.
Definitely raises questions. And then there was the clip farming.
Yeah. Taking the long stream.
And cutting them into short, punchy clips for TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts.
That's crucial now. Short-form video is just huge for discovery. Those clips go viral, people find the main channel.
Exactly. It's like free advertising almost, driven by the algorithm.
A really effective way to cross-pollinate audiences across platforms.
And you see it in the numbers. March to May 2021, he goes from 50,000 subs to 300,000.
Just explosive growth in a couple of months.
Then in June 2021, he did this thing where he streamed his subscriber count live, reacting to people subscribing or unsubscribing.
Making the numbers themselves into content. That creates hype.
It clearly did. Because on June 29th, 2021, get this, he starts the day with nearly 800,000 subs.
Okay.
By the end of that same day, he hits 1 million.
No way. In like 12 hours?
Roughly. And then the next day, 1.5 million.
That's insane. Just like vertical growth. Something went truly viral there.
It must have been a perfect storm of the clips, the live reaction stream, everything.
A real moment where he just captured the internet's attention.
And then, just to keep things interesting, August 2021, he drops a music track, Duty Booty.
Oh, yeah. I remember hearing about that one, wasn't it? Kind of out there.
Let's just say the sources mentioned barking and twerking, but somehow it got over 7 million views.
See, that unpredictability again. People didn't know what to expect.
And it worked. He released more music after that. Seems like he was willing to try different things, Diversify.
Smart move.
Mhm.
Keeps things fresh, potentially pulls in different audiences beyond just gaming.
Now let's talk about his family situation during all this. It wasn't always smooth sailing.
Right, the sources mention some friction, particularly with his mom.
Yeah. His dad was apparently pretty supportive, even liked the content, but his mom, not so much, at least initially.
What was the issue? The behavior online?
Seems like it. The energy, the controversies, maybe. It led to conflict, and eventually, she apparently kicked him out of her house in Ohio.
Wow, really? That's intense.
Yeah. So he moved in with his dad in Detroit and just kept streaming.
Having that support from his dad must have been huge then.
Definitely. But the Club Shay interview suggests his mom has come around more recently, like in the last year or two, started to understand and accept his career.
That's good to hear. It highlights that generational gap sometimes.
Yeah.
Understanding these new online careers.
For sure. Okay, collaborations, another big growth driver.
Yeah, hooking up with other big streamers. Aiden Ross, Rice Cum.
Right, getting in front of their audiences. Apparently, Aiden Ross thought Speed was weird at first.
Okay. But they still collabed.
Yeah, because their styles were actually pretty similar in some ways. That shock value approach, it ended up being really beneficial for both of them.
Makes sense. Cross-promotion with someone who has a similar or at least overlapping audience.
And eventually, Speed's influence grew to be, like, on par with Aiden Ross. He became a really major player.
Just cemented his position in that top tier of streamers.
So he'd conquered the U.S. scene, basically, but then he looked globally.
The Ronaldo phase.
Exactly. It started with a viral clip, someone asked his favorite player, and boom! Instant Cristiano Ronaldo obsession.
And that Sue chant.
Became his thing, and it connected massively with football fans all over the world.
Football is global, right? So tapping into Ronaldo, arguably the most famous player ever, that's a huge potential audience.
He really leaned into it, started playing FIFA, doing real-life soccer stuff, having strong opinions, especially the Messi versus Ronaldo debate.
Which always gets people talking. Controversy generates engagement.
He seemed to know that. Like, even during the World Cup final, he wore an Argentina jersey, even though he loves Ronaldo and dislikes Messi.
Just purely for the reaction, you think?
The sources suggest it was a calculated move for attention. And he also thinks his nonverbal comedy, the faces and reactions, works across languages.
There's probably some truth to that. Physical comedy can be pretty universal.
And then the ultimate moment, he actually met Cristiano Ronaldo.
That must have been massive for his brand. Huge validation and just more global eyeballs.
Absolutely. And speaking of eyeballs, his viewership numbers are just wild.
Yeah, you mentioned hitting records.
Multiple times, breaking the world record for concurrent viewers. The latest mentioned was over 1.04 million people watching him live at the same time.
Over 1 million concurrent. That's astounding.
Yeah.
Especially recently, post-pandemic lockdowns.
Right. It shows sustained massive popularity, not just a lockdown blip.
Truly elite numbers in the streaming world.
Okay, let's shift to the money. Because the numbers here are, frankly, kind of hard to grasp.
The Kayama video estimated his net worth at, what, $55 million? Before taxes?
$55 million, yeah. And it comes from everywhere. YouTube ads, donations.
Super chats, yeah.
Channel memberships, merch, music, sponsorships. It's a whole ecosystem.
Let's break that down a bit. Ad revenue.
Well, his most viewed video alone, which had like 215 million views, is estimated to have made around $324,000 just from ads after YouTube's cut.
Just one video.
And across his 4 known channels with like 7.6 billion total views, the estimate is around $11.5 million in ad revenue after YouTube's share.
The scale is just immense. Volume really pays off there.
Then the live stream donations, the super chats, estimates are between $52,500 and $70,000 per stream.
Per stream, after YouTube takes its 30%.
Yep, which could mean monthly, anywhere from $630,000 to over $1 million just from donations.
Wow, that direct audience support is incredibly powerful.
Annually, that's potentially $7.5 million to over $13 million. Then there are channel memberships, adding maybe another $462,000 a year.
It just keeps stacking up. People are clearly willing to pay to support him and get perks.
Merchandise, too. One estimate suggested a single merch drop, if just 2% of his subs bought a $25 shirt, could gross over $16 million. Profit would be lower, obviously, but still huge potential.
Merch is always a big one for creators with loyal fan bases.
And he's got assets now. A $10 million house in Florida, apparently. $500,000 worth of cars. Lamborghinis, including one inspired by Ronaldo.
Right, the physical markers of that success, which also probably feature in his content sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure. Even the music brings in a bit. Maybe $66,000 to $88,000 a year across platforms like Spotify.
It all adds up, even the smaller streams.
And sponsorships. Huge potential there. $100,000 to $250,000 per deal, maybe $1.2 to $3 million a year.
Brands want access to that huge engaged audience.
Even TikTok, where he doesn't post as much, could be bringing in like $400,000 a year based on estimated RPMs. That's revenue per mil or per 1,000 views.
So yeah, that $55 million pre-tax estimate starts to sound pretty plausible when you add all these different streams together.
And even after taxes, they estimated 37% federal in Florida, which has no state income tax. You're still looking at a net worth of maybe $35 million.
It's an incredible financial trajectory, from basically Myro to that in just a few years.
What's interesting, though, is what he did with the money initially. According to the CLUB Shay Shay interview, he wasn't rushing out to buy Lambos right away.
Oh, what was the first big purchase?
He reportedly bought his mom a house, a $1 million house back in Ohio.
Huh. After the earlier friction, that's significant. Shows where his priorities might have been.
Yeah, he did get the cars later, and apparently a $50,000 chain he barely wears. But he also mentioned carrying cash around specifically to help people if he sees someone in need.
So a mix of things. Some typical young rich guy purchases, but maybe also trying to give back or look after family.
Seems like it. He talks about really loving streaming, wanting to perfect it. He appreciates investment advice, but also wants to help people directly.
That passion for the craft itself probably fuels the whole thing. It's not just about the money, even though the money is obviously huge.
But it hasn't all been smooth sailing and Lamborghinis. There have been controversies.
Right, the Patrick CC video touched on that. The persona versus reality.
Yeah, like early on, being cagey about his age, misrepresenting it sometimes, especially on those e-date streams.
And accusations about the community he built, being toxic or high stress.
Exactly. And that blurry line, how much is real, Darren Watkins, how much is the IShowSpeed character? The suggestion is the early reactions were maybe more genuine, but the rage stuff got more exaggerated over time.
Which makes sense. If that's what the audience is rewarding with donations and views, there's pressure to perform.
He's had bans from platforms, sometimes for seeming too young initially. He's dealt with DDoS attacks.
Yeah, people trying to knock him offline.
And he'd react with those broken heart videos. He'd respond to trolls, sometimes really aggressively. Those rage highlights became part of the brand.
The chat often fuels it too, right? Egging him on.
Totally. And then there was that specific e-date controversy where a joke just landed really badly outside his core audience, causing some drama with other streamers.
It shows how navigating that online fame, especially with edgy content, is like walking a tightrope. Things can easily blow up.
Definitely. So wrapping this all up, it's quite the story. From those early struggles, family friction,
to harnessing this incredibly high energy, sometimes chaotic persona, using smart viral tactics like the clip farming.
and tapping into something huge and global like the Ronaldo obsession.
It all combined to create this just unprecedented growth
Yeah.
and massive financial success at such a young age.
It really highlights the power of these platforms, but also the challenges of that kind of online fame, the persona maintenance, the controversies.
The sheer amount of money now possible in this creator economy.
So thinking about his huge influence, especially on younger viewers, and that whole debate about authenticity, it leaves us with a question for you.
Yeah. How sustainable is a career built so heavily on that kind of super high intensity, reactive, sometimes controversial content? And what responsibilities, if any, do creators like Speed have regarding their impact, even if it's just entertainment? Something to think about as this space keeps evolving.